every building that was destroyed. We knew we had to build again. It was a tikkun. We had to build every building that was destroyed again, before our homes, before anything else. Of course, the synagogue, the community center, that was in memory of Itamar Yefet, that was murdered in Gush Katif. And the synagogue is named after a Rabbi Yitzchak Arama, Hashem Yikom Damo, that was also murdered in Gush Katif in the year 2002. This light fixture is made of 12 different triangles, triangle being the strongest of the geometric shapes. There are 12 triangles, each one hung totally separately. Like the 12 tribes, we respect every one of the tribes individually. The one who sits and learns, the one who does commercial endeavors, the one who goes to sea. We respect everyone individually. But there are times in the history of the Jewish people that Am Yisrael has to get its act together. And we know that what hurt the people of Gush Katif most was the fact that Am Yisrael did not know how to get its act together in those times. So look what happens when Am Yisrael does get its act together. Come and see with me what happens to this light fixture. We are standing here right now in the center of the synagogue on the bima, and from here you can see when Am Yisrael gets its act together, we are strong like a Magen David. All the 12 tribes are touching each other, are together like one. We're strong like a Star of David, and we're soaring eastward towards Yerushalayim. And you can see the colors of the breastplate of the Kohanim. They light up, and you get waves emanating, good waves from God, from above, that gives Israel even more strength.
Shalom, Anita Tucker.
Hi, Yoni.
So we were with you back then in the days of Gush Katif and Netzer Chazani, and we're today 9 years later. What are the feelings today?
9 years have passed, but we're waiting any day to be able to go back home. And every time one of these operations of having to shoot into Gaza and whatever, having to protect the people of Israel, we have a feeling that it's really coming closer. And this time it really felt very close. And I'm not sure that it's not going to happen soon, that we're going to be asked to come back and start new towns in Gaza again.
You know, some would say bring back the military, bring back the army, control the area in terms of, fighting the terrorism there. But you don't need to bring back communities, Jewish communities, living there, the farms and everything.
Well, I think there are many reasons, but one of the reasons is because when I visited in Gaza City in 1976, I was taken by an old man. His name was El Kayam, and his family had lived there for many years, and we visited the old Jewish quarter that was there all through the generations until 1929 when they were taken out. And we went into one building and we saw exactly the arched doorway where the mezuzah had been pulled out, and we knocked on the door, and this lovely Arab lady invited us in, and she told us the homes were empty when she came, and that used to be Jewish homes, and that she could come in there and live wherever she wanted to. And he said, yes, this was my home. And we walked to the next door, and we see also where the mezuzah was torn out, the arched doorway, and we look inside, the doors are open, and we see a beautiful mosaic floor. That's the floor with stories of the Torah in it, with the stories of Moses and the burning bush, of David and Goliath, and all the stories that we know from the Bible. And in addition, it was a mosque then, and this old man tells us, this was my cheder, this is where I learned Aleph Bet, and this is where he started his Hebrew school education. So from his story of how his family lived there through generations, and my story of having lived there for 30 years, had children born there and grandchildren born there, and hoped that I would have great-grandchildren born there, I think that we all have to leave a little room in our heads with all the Hamas and terror that this place of Gaza means for us. We hope that it will also leave a little room in our heads for that Jews also can live in the Gaza Strip as they have through all the generations. But in addition, I think it's also a geographical issue. I think if you look at the map of Israel, you can see that the Gaza Strip is just very naturally a part of Israel. I always describe it as a pear, that someone just took a little bite out of the pear, and a little tiny bite out of the pear, and a little tiny part of that was Gush Katif. But really, the Gaza Strip is really an integral part geographically of Israel.
So these days, sometimes you guys probably feel like you want to scream out, "We told you so"?
I think we did tell everyone so, but I don't think screaming out that we told you so is going to help, because we can see even today there are some members of Knesset that they only admitted half-heartedly and not completely, because it's hard to admit the truth. But I think what we all hope for is that there will be this opportunity to go back home, and the same opportunity will be able to help protect the people in Israel, and there won't be rockets coming to all the places in Israel that we've seen now.
And basically, during this military activity, especially, of course, the ground attack, the soldiers were actually going back to the ruins of your communities.
Absolutely, and I've got an amazing story to tell you that happened from our own town. Every day in the last 3 weeks, months, we've been taking food and surprises and all sorts of great things that the soldiers needed to specific places that we were told to be waiting there for the soldiers, and we had no fear getting real close, as it was really like going home, on the way home. And a bunch of our people took 300 meals one Friday afternoon down to the Erez crossing, and they were waiting there with tables spread with all the 300 meals and signs that said, Netzach Chazani loves you, Netzach Chazani is proud of you, waiting for the soldiers to come out of Gaza. It was our youth and 2 older women. And all of a sudden, after a long wait, they see the soldiers coming out all dusty and tired, and they're looking up at the signs and they're saying, Netzach Chazani, what are you doing here? Netzach Chazani, what are you doing here? And when the people can't understand why they're getting so excited that it says Netzach Chazani, and all of a sudden they say, we just were on the ruins, we just walked on the ruins of Netzach Chazani. How could it be that just you are here waiting for us? What an amazing thing! And they started crying, and they were hugging the youth and the ladies, and everybody was standing there crying, and there was a feeling that we're closer to going back home than ever before. In addition, I can tell you another story. I went to visit the Hadar Golding family, because the Kala, the fiancé, was from Gan Tal, and I asked her, had she spoken to her fiancé about having been near Gan Tal, near where she came from, and he told her that yes, he was in Rafiach, and he could see in the distance where the yeshuvim where the towns of Gush Kadif had been. And her feeling was very close also, that perhaps in the future she and her fiancé would be able to live in Gan Tal. Unfortunately, he was killed fighting to defend, again, the same area that so many soldiers have died defending over and over again.
Now bring us, please, back into perspective. You know, now we're talking about the conflict. But I understand that back then you used to visit Gaza, tour Gaza, shop in Gaza City.
Absolutely. We shopped in all the towns, in all the stores in Gaza City. That was our main shopping area. Actually, in Khan Yunis, I used to buy diapers in the pharmacy there. It was the only place where you could get paper diapers in Israel. So I'd shop for paper diapers in the pharmacy in Khan Yunis that they brought in for the United Nations personnel. We used to go to the optometrist in Gaza City. We shopped in the beautiful stores that were like Dizengoff in the Christian neighborhood, or the remote neighborhood that we heard about the fighting there this week. And we shopped all over, and we really, they had very happy to have business with us. We also had very good relations with our nearby neighbors, who we taught modern agriculture. Their agriculture was very, very primitive. And also, when the electric grid was attached to our towns, we insisted that our neighbors be attached to the electric grid as well. And because of us, until this day, Gaza is attached to the Israeli electric grid, and they owe Israel a lot of money for the electricity, as well as the water. When the water of our towns was attached to the national pipeline, we insisted that our neighbors be attached to the national pipeline as well. And that's why Gaza is still attached to the national pipeline.
So what happened?
Well, the main change, there was the first intifada, the second intifada, but there were very little influence over our relationships with our Arab neighbors. The real difference happened when the world started talking about peace, not P-E-A-C-E as we speak about it, but P-I-E-C-E, which was a peace that tore us to pieces. In Hebrew, you say the word shalom. Shalom, we say as if it means peace, but really it means shalem, it means whole. We want the world and the Israeli people and everyone to be a more whole people, more one, like God is one. And actually the change happened when they brought the arch-terrorist Yasser Arafat, after the Oslo agreements, to rule, to be in charge of the Arab people in the Gaza Strip, and he made terror for those Arab people. They were tortured, they were hung in the street. People who owned land, good friends of ours who were landowners, the Mukhtar of Deir al-Balach was murdered, the people were hung in the streets. The leadership of the Gaza, of the city of Khan Yunis, was also murdered, and it was a very, very difficult situation of a lot of terror for our Arab neighbors, and of course then the terror spread out into Jerusalem and spread out in our own area, and many of people were killed in our area. But really, until then, we had wonderful relationships with our Arab neighbors, and that was in about 2000. About 2003, there was the next Pieces Agreement, as I call it. It was the roadmap agreement where the American and Israeli government gave the Palestinian police, as they were called, arms, weapons, and the Israeli soldiers went without weapons, and they were in dual patrols, as they were called, and they patrolled the Gaza Strip from Egypt till Ashkelon, but the Israeli soldiers were not allowed to see anything or do anything because they had no weapons. So if they saw anything, they just shut up. And the Palestinians had weapons, and so during that time they were apparently digging the tunnels.
So during that time.
Yeah. So actually, what happened was that about a month after this roadmap agreement trial at Peace again, a high officer came down to our town, as to all the other towns in Gush Katif, and said, "Guys, you people better get ready because we don't know what's going to happen. This thing is really looks like it's going to explode. The price of a bullet went down from $10 a bullet in the Gaza black market to $1 a bullet, and they've been digging these tunnels, and they're smuggling in weapons and parts of rockets, and this thing is really, we don't know what's going to happen. It's going to explode."
And then the attacks began.
Yeah, and he didn't know that he meant literally it exploded, because that's when the first rockets exploded all over Gush Katif. And during those 2 years, we had about 7,000 rockets that exploded all over Gush Katif, and we saw a lot of miracles we would rather have not have seen, but we did see them because of the peace agreements.
Now, you're sitting here very close to one of the main Israel Air Force bases, and you're hearing the planes, but you have thoughts regarding what these planes are doing, what the attacks are really doing, and what should be done.
Well, to be honest, all these years we were in contact with many of our Arab acquaintances in the Gaza Strip, and I must tell you that any of them that we knew that we thought were somewhat moral have been killed, have been tortured in jail, and I think that anyone who's left there, any of the Arabs that are left there, are totally collaborating with the Hamas. That they haven't left, they haven't tried to escape, they haven't protested. If they're still there, they're collaborating. And I think the first planes that went out should have knocked off everything in the Gaza Strip, everyone in the Gaza Strip, and then our soldiers could have more safely dealt with the tunnels, because I think we endangered our soldiers without reason, because we were being humane. Humane is when somebody wants to kill you and you kill them first. That's called being humane. And if you allow them to continue to kill you, then you're not being humane.
So these days, 9 years later, lots of sorrow, lots of yearning. It's a personal yearning. It's a national. It's everything together.
It's a yearning for home. It's a constant yearning for home. It's very much like losing a dear one in war. Very similar. The feeling that what can you do about it? How can I control things? I can't control things, but I would like to. It's a yearning for your home. It's a yearning for your homeland. It's a yearning for where your children's childhood was. It's where you were young. It's where everything, your lifetime endeavors that were destroyed to a pile of rubble. And for what? Because you see all the time that people are being injured by these rockets and suffering because of these rockets. And what was this all for? It was for really, we all know that it was for naught. And I think the feeling of yearning for home is the strongest feeling, yearning for our homeland, a yearning for peace that's shalem, that's going to make us a more whole people. How can you ever have peace when two people have to be separated, when you can't live next door to each other? Peace is about two people living next door to each other. If there's no one there willing to live next door to us, then they have no reason to be our next door neighbors on this close in any sense. Peace is about living next door to each other, and we're willing to go there and take the people who are willing to, the Arabs who are willing to live peacefully with us, and to have them be our neighbors and to continue living. Anybody who wants to kill us, we've got to murder him first.
Anita Tucker, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.